thank you. I want to give a shout out, just as Richard has done, to the all the activists on the call, and thank you for everybody for joining us. The nomination of Dr. Nancy Beck to lead the U.S. Consumer Protection Safety Commission is deeply concerning. It's yet another example of President Trump putting the fox in charge of guarding the hen house, perhaps the most concerning example yet. Let's put this simply. Someone who has spent her career endangering the safety of Americans' consumers should not be the top, she should not be the top consumer watchdog. The chair of the consumer, it's the CPSC, is responsible for ensuring that over 15,000 consumer products, from bike helmets to children's toys, are safe, including making sure they're safe from toxic substances. But Dr. Beck has a long track record of putting the interests of the chemical industry first and putting the health and safety of millions of Americans at risk. In her position at EPA, overseeing the Office of Chemical Safety, Dr. Beck withheld scientific data, ignored calls to prioritize toxic substances like PFAS, which increase the risk for cancer, birth defects, and immune system disorders. Right now, millions of Americans are still being exposed to PFAS, including in my home state of New Mexico, where we are facing serious PFAS contamination of groundwater. And despite calls from state and federal officials, Dr. Beck ignored requests to prioritize PFAS for risk evaluation and management under the Toxic Substances Control Act. I was the lead senator on the TSCA reform legislation, so I know the law is intended to protect Americans from dangerous chemicals like asbestos in insulation and lead in water and pipes. And Dr. Beck has clearly run afoul of the congressional intent by continually underestimating the risk of chemicals like TCE, the risk that TCE poses to the American public. As a scientist, Dr. Beck should know better. She should follow the science. Instead, she has gone against peer-reviewed science time and time again, favoring the industry at every turn. That is not data-driven science. That is not rigorous assessment we need to protect Americans. In fact, nearly 100 scientists and health professionals have joined a letter opposing Dr. Beck's nomination. In it, they write, quote, "Beck's approaches consistently disregard scientific best practices, favor chemical manufacturers, and put vulnerable populations in harm's way." Dr. Beck's entire career has been less as a toxicologist conducting rigorous, unbiased science and more like a defense attorney zealously defending guilty chemical clients. We had high hopes for this bipartisan bill. When we did TSCA, we thought it was going to be a good bill. It was the environmentalists backed it, the chemical industry reform, we put it in place. It represented some of the most significant environmental reform in 2 decades. But with Nancy Beck at the EPA, we've seen TSCA reform undermined time and time again. In the 4 years since it passed, Nancy Beck and the EPA have blocked, weakened, and delayed protections from PFAS, from lead, from TCE, and so many other dangerous chemicals. In these 4 years, the only ones who have been protected by her leadership have been the chemical companies. Not workers, not consumers. She is there for the chemical companies. The American consumer is entitled to leadership at the Consumer Product Safety Commission and will protect their health, safety, and lives.